here, but anyway, we do have that morning assembly, and we do have that whole child approach, and we do focus mainly in morning assembly on social, emotional, and behavior learning, and just different things that can help us as we grow and learn. We teach students how to navigate those social situations. For many of you that don't know, we hand place every single student, and that starts in March. And that is something that helps our students to be successful because every child is different, teachers are different. We are starting to, we do value risk-taking, we value out-of-the-box thinking. For many of you know, we have our strength-based learning cohort. That is a group of 2nd, 3rd, and 4th graders that work together in one community, and they grow together in 3 years. And so you start seeing different things in our school that sometimes are looked at the district level. Our inclusion model was one of the earliest models of inclusion in the school district, which means that our students that are in special education have access to regular education. They're regular education students first. They're in the classroom as much as possible and as much as is appropriate. And we were one of the first schools to embrace the notion of inclusion. And that means inclusion for all, inclusion for students that have ADHD, inclusion for students that have autism, inclusion for students that scream out loud sometimes and have to be taught. Because we believe that if you struggle with reading, we're going to help you with reading, and if you struggle with raising your hand or screaming out loud, we're going to help you with that too. We were one of the very first schools in AISD to focus on dyslexia, and you'll hear in a little bit from one of our calls, but we started early on hearing about, learning about that we do have many students that struggle with dyslexia, and that the problem at the beginning was that they were not identified. So we set in motion a plan for every grade level to have somebody trained with Project Read, and then we went on down the line and sent somebody to Scottish Rite to be our very first cult. And actually she was a parent here and did Camp Read, Christy Matthew. And so now we've been working with the district at the district level, and we were one of the very first schools. Actually, they used our data to help us. We were one of the very first schools, the very first school to have a call to be our reading specialist and have a full-time reading specialist, because believe it or not, we had a 0.5 reading specialist that we shared with another school about the size of ours. And so as of last year, every single elementary school was given a full-time literacy specialist. So we're really excited about the things that we do here. We're excited about what the parents do. The parents don't just participate and are involved. They are part of everything that we do every day on a daily basis. So we've got our students, our teachers, and then what our parents do. We absolutely could not do what we do for students, be who we are for students, provide the kind of opportunities that we do for students without the support of our parents. The teachers rely heavily on support of our parents, and we're grateful for the support of our parents. Parents provide their time, talent, and treasure, and whether it's staying for morning assembly, sharing with their children at night about the morning assembly, whether it's going over homework, whether it's helping in the classroom, joining the CAC or PTA, coming to school-wide involved and being involved in those activities. Those are critical, and I do believe we have just the best parents that work really hard to make sure that our philosophy and what we believe in and what we want for our students is modeled and demonstrated in the homes and in the cul-de-sacs and on the streets of Kiker. And then of course we've got our communities and businesses that we partner with. So we just couldn't be more fortunate. And like I said, as large as we are, we've got that small town, small school feel. So we're very, very fortunate. Thank you.
Yasmin, same question to you. What separates?
That's a tough act to follow.
And she actually set me up rather well for my answer. But I should just, if I'm a little sleepy-eyed this morning, is because we were up until the wee hours of the night last night as a school board approving the strategic plan scorecard for the following year. And what that scorecard does is it really sets the goals and standards for the superintendent that we are looking for the district to achieve next year. And a lot of those are hard numbers. And those numbers cascade down to our principals and our campus leadership in terms of how they need to drive to achieve those goals as a campus. So I think what really makes a campus successful is how that campus leader or principal takes those goals and looks at them in a way that is meaningful for that campus and finds a way to get that campus to success in a way that makes sense for that campus. And when you look at a campus like Kiker and the things that Dr. Schneider's been able to implement, I think you'll see things like nobody's telling Dr. Schneider to implement an SBLC program. That is her as a campus leader taking a leap of faith that this is going to be an paid program that helps our campus, or things like recognizing that we have a significant need for academic language therapists in our campus and making sure that that's a reality and things that are brought forward. So I think, as I look at the 130 campuses that we have in the district and which ones are successful and which ones are struggling, very often it comes down to the leadership that's in place. And it's a really delicate balance of finding not only the leader that's able to bring innovation to the table, the leader that's able to recognize their campus needs, but also a leader that's able to connect with the parent community. And I think that's one of the things that we have such a strong and involved parent community, but our parent community is only successful because we have a strong relationship with our campus administration as well, and that's not the case everywhere. There are a lot of campuses where parents feel hamstrung or not able to affect the campus in the way that they want. So I think it's important to recognize that we are particularly fortunate here, and so I'll just go on singing your praises. So I think making sure that we don't take what we do have for granted, because knowing that this lady is here. How many times do I drive by here at night, see your truck at 8 or 9 o'clock at night? But knowing that we have that strong connection that really makes an impact for our school, and how lucky we are to have that is truly a gift.
And yes, we are a very successful school in academics and in just the opportunities we provide our kids. But I think what makes Kiker special is that everyone here feels valued. From the top to the bottom, from pre-K to admin, to teachers, to parents, we all feel a sense of value. As a parent, I feel like my time is valued, and I feel so appreciated, even if it's only 5 minutes, or if I'm just handing out sporks in the lunchroom because the lunch monitor is sick. People were so appreciative. Or if it's helping with a classroom party or being in the volunteer in the front office, they always say thank you. And so I think that goes a long way. And I think every child who comes in feels valued. They're welcomed with a hug and a high five, and they're told the things that make them feel special and that make them unique. And I think we just need that. And it makes us feel like a community. And the teachers feel valued. They get to run with the ideas that they have a vision for, and they feel empowered and are given the resources they want and need to pursue their dreams for their classroom and their kids. And I think that just goes with that. There's no excuses. If you see a need, then we're going to make it happen, whether it's for a kid, a parent, a teacher, or administration. And I feel like that's what brings that sense of community and closeness that we have at Kiker. That's really special, that we can just feel, and it's palpable.
Everything you all said. And just to add, we also have a wonderful Circle C community support beyond Kiker, which I think is unique. And then I want to echo what Yasmin said about Dr. Schneider. Just all the things, Dr. Schneider, that you said about strengths and weaknesses and risk-taking for our children, and striving for excellence and a passion for our school, you model all of that. And that is contagious. And so those of us who are in leadership roles want to be authentic and strive for excellence and be passionate about this place also. not left much for me to say. But teaching, talking from the teacher perspective, really speaking to what everybody has said, the philosophy that Kiker embraces and really welcomes into the classroom, into the school and the community, through the support of the administration and through the support of the school board and through the support of the PTA, who without them I would not have the immense training that I do today, because they allow us as teachers and educators to really reach out for what we want to do and to reach the students directly with the professionalism that we know we can reach to them. That really is empowering, like Whitney said, and it allows us to be the best that we can be, to allow your students to be the best they can be, to reach them where they are and take them even further in their learning.
So certainly a number of ways in which we see the Kiker experience being very dynamic and fruitful. With all the success, certainly there are challenges that are experienced, and I wonder if our panelists can speak a little bit about the challenges that Kiker may be experiencing now, or what, if we're future thinking a bit, what we might anticipate down the road as potential challenges that we would need to navigate through Kiker.
Sorry. My mind started with this topical and the topical stuff. Well, as Dr. Schneider mentioned, I think we are hitting about 140%. I think by my math, I think we're actually 142% capacity at Kiker this year. So that's significant. And I was actually crunching all the numbers last night to look at where we are within the district, because we've had some pockets of severe over-enrollment in the Northwest and the Southeast. But as of this year, I think Kiker is number 2 in the district in terms of over-enrollment. So that's a huge issue that we need to take a hard look at. And really what that does is, no matter how strong the leadership is on the campus, and no matter how many portable buildings you bring to the campus, at a certain point, being at that large of a size has an impact in terms of just the common spaces we have available, the times the kids are able to eat lunches, just the structure of the day and the resources that we have. And so that's a very dire issue that we have to address. And right now we have a facilities master planning effort underway that is taking a hard look at that. And I think you've probably heard a little bit coming up in terms of looking at campus assessments, including facilities, as well as our educational suitability as a campus and how well the building's functioning for our educational needs. So there is a lot of scrutiny applied to that effort right now, and we're looking at Kiker. But I think in terms of just pressing need, and for me, looking at within District 7, for me, that's the most important thing that I'm looking at for Kiker right now. I feel like we're in a good spot educationally, we're in a good spot in leadership, we're in a good spot in our parent involvement, where you've got fantastic teachers. So there's so many great things that are happening at the school, but we're simply bursting at the seams. So to my mind, that's the most critical point right now.
Who else?
I think that as we continue to see technology used in extensive amounts in current jobs and in future jobs, that's definitely something that we want to keep in mind as we're educating our students, that not only through the resources we have, but preparing them for the resources that they'll need to be using when they're in the workplace. And technology is always something that's evolving and continuing to grow. And so something I think that we always need to continue to keep our minds on, and how we can enhance that experience for our children in that realm. Since I have the mic, I'll go ahead and talk. Just to say, I think the role of the PTA is, as things change in the school district and at Kiker, just to continually ask, how can we best support and engage parents? And then also to advocate legislatively and for fiscal responsibility for our public tax dollars. And PTA is an advocacy organization. On your chairs is a flyer about Rally Day, which is coming in February. And that's important work of the PTA that we want to promote, because it's good work. That's why when you join the PTA, just becoming a member allows you to be part of a greater advocacy program in the state of Texas.
Yeah, I'll grab questions as soon as we get through a couple more answers.
And so just to kind of expand on that as well, from a campus and a district perspective, you know, our school funding comes from property taxes, and Austin has, as you know, because you pay them, very high property taxes. But I think it's over 200 billion that we're sitting at. $406 billion of the million. Sorry, again. Should let her talk. It's okay. I know. $406 million of the property taxes Austin generates, we're sending back to the state, and it's not staying in our schools. And that's one of the reasons I admire the efforts of the school board in creating this 20 to 25 year plan of like, okay, we can't depend on the state to provide us the funding. We need to maintain our schools, to pay our teachers well, to get the technology. We're gonna have to be creative. And I will say it's being a part of the PTA last year and being able to sit on some of the conversations. We have great leaders in our district who are thinking outside of the box, who are looking at ways to provide what this district needs, which is a very diverse district. And there's different needs in different areas, but if we don't have the money to provide it, we can't serve our students well. And so legislatively, if we can, you know, do some school finance reform, that will help. And also partnering with our district to look at these other ways. And one of the other ways is through bonds, because 100% of the money generated from a bond stays in our district. It does not go back to recapture. And I think that's something that the public doesn't understand, is that that's why bonds are so critical to our district specifically, because so much of our money is given back to the state. This is a way for us to be able to keep some of the money that our taxpayers pay and help our school.
I'll take you guys with me everywhere I go. Take a look at this.
All right, so a challenge. One of the first ones, and many of y'all have heard me say this over and over, but it's because I believe so passionately in it, and that is the setting of the respect for education and educators. And, you know, I had a coffee talk not long ago in which I said something like, you know, how many of you would, if the doctor was running late, wait 15 minutes, you wouldn't get up and walk out? How many would wait 15 minutes for the doctor? All right. And we know that lawyers hold court, and I don't know about y'all, but if you've ever been in a courtroom, I'm quiet. What do you think happens on Sunday nights and Monday nights? I'm not sure, is it in fall or, no, there's a bunch of guys in team uniforms. What's that called? What's that called? Football. How much do you think those guys make? A lot of money, right? Would you agree with me that America values football? Would you agree with me that we'll wait on our doctors, and we have high regard and respect for our doctors and lawyers? And like I said, there's definitely proof that America values football. But I don't know about you guys, there's not too many people tuning in to education. I mean, if you look up here at these folks and you look out there, that's a small crowd for a school with 1,038 people. Now, I'm not complaining because I'm grateful for every single one of you. But what I'd like is to set the challenge. Of course, I'm just wanting to jump up, but I'd like to set the challenge that every single one of you get up and go out into the communities and become our advocates, our cheerleaders for education as a whole, and for educators. I don't believe, as long as I've been in education, and for certain as long as I've been an educator, that our leaders, our school board, our superintendent, and especially our teachers get the respect that they deserve. I'll just go ahead and put that out there. I can tell you we wait 15 minutes for a doctor, but if the teacher doesn't return a call in 2 minutes, there's a call to me, and sometimes downtown.
What?
So, am I right, Yasmin? Sometimes. Happens. And then they call her. So, we've got to respect that. Katie, you've got a master's degree, am I right? A master's degree. And she is certified to know not only how the brain learns, but how the brain processes information. Am I correct? And you know how to break down reading to a point where students have the key to unlock reading. Am I right? Yes. And so, Katie, without programs like yours, are they going to be able to read expository text, science, social studies, sorry for reaching across you, science, social studies, mathematics? Are they going to be able to really read and understand and do that high-level inferencing that is needed as they move through?
I think if students don't have some of those tools if needed, then they won't reach their full potential in those areas.
So we've got 1,038 kids, and we've got one reading specialist. Katie, how many students do you serve?
As many as I can.
59?
About 60 to 70 or so. However, we have about 120 students that we provide services to and provide those tools and resources to allow them to reach their potential in reading.
And so I encourage you to spread the word to let's do whatever we can. Well, I know there was a couple years back that I went to Washington. I was fired up. Well, I wanted to meet with Obama so bad and say, I'm going to come to work for you, and I'm going to help you know all there is about education so that we can reset, that's what I call it, reset the respect for educators. So another challenge is time to tweet. Follow me on Kiker at Kiker Comments. Thought I'd throw that out there. But another one of our challenges is meeting the needs of every one of our children. And our learners are changing. Our learners are changing. And so if our learners are changing, then we have to change. We can't do school like when you went to school and I went to school. And the teacher stood at the front of the class, and the chairs looked like that, and the teacher did most of the talking, and the students didn't. Well, they looked like they did most of the listening. And then they got sent home with a page or two of 56 math problems. Anybody recognize that kind of school? We can't do school like that anymore. Would everybody up here agree? Yeah. We've got to do school differently. So if you walk in our classrooms here at Kiker, you're going to see different learning spaces. You're going to see desks with bars that swing. You're going to see yoga balls, kids sitting on swivel stools. You're going to see couches. Last year, we had a student taking the star in her sleeping bag after she had failed it twice. We're gonna accommodate the learner. But what that takes, that is a challenge. What that takes is respect for that. We are larger. Kiker is larger than 13 middle schools with, I want to say, not as much of the staff to support that. Technology, absolutely. You know, we've got students that are pre-kindergarten that I just love so much, and they're so wide-eyed, ready to learn. They're looking through magnifying glasses, through lenses, that are looking at their worms. There's the kindergarten classes that are using words, repel, attract, north and south, when they're talking about magnets. Kindergarten. I don't know about you guys, but I think it was somewhere along 4th, 5th, maybe even middle school when I You know, the expectations for learning is coming down, and our students are getting it. They're getting it, and we've got to prepare these learners because our kindergartners or pre-Kers, think about this, our pre-Kers are gonna graduate in 2030. When Dr. Cruz came here on the first day of school and I walked him through, I walked him over to Miss Bradel's kindergarten class and I said, I want you to get a good look at your graduates of 2030. Now, you say that, the 2029, and then we walked over to pre-K, 2030. Does that blow anybody's mind? So when you think about that, you're thinking about careers from 2040. I know you're itching to take the mic from me. You're talking about careers, guys, of these kids from 2040 to 2070. Do we know what kind of careers they're gonna have? Do we know what kind of problems are gonna exist? There's gonna be problems. I don't know about you, but I've never lived in the world where there haven't been problems. So our students are gonna have to be problem solvers. And I'm gonna tell you, our students are gonna have to be able to collaborate. Our students are gonna have to be able to use technology. Do we know what kind of technology? Do we think it's gonna look like a Chromebook or a laptop? We don't know. In fact, when I was growing up, I had a party line on my telephone. Anybody have a party line? Yeah. I was a bad girl. I gave the neighbor's phone number when they asked. Technology is changing. It's going to be changing, and we need to have enough technology for all students, stay current with training for our teachers, and teach students about safety on technology. So that is going to be something, and then preparing those students for careers. And that means giving them talk time. That means our education system has to change. And luckily, we have leaders like Yasmin at the top, leaders like Dr. Paul Cruz at the top that know that are aware of that, and that are taking steps to make sure they're coming out and asking me, Lori, what do you think's important in building? And I say, you know what? Our learning spaces need to change. We've got one commons area. One. And if we look at what careers might need in 2070, I don't know about you guys, but I'm thinking they're gonna need to have spaces to gather and talk. And so our leaders at the top are talking about that. So I could go on, but those are the challenges that I think that are the most important. Meeting the needs of our learners, because our learners are different, and resetting the respect for education and educators. Thank you.
Thank you. We did have a question from the audience, and so topically we'll keep it here. So if we can ask the question, maybe have one or two quick responses.
Well, it kind of comes off of Rebecca Hall's comment about AISD. The way we make change in our society, unfortunately, it takes money. And where do we get the money from? Well, I've heard, and I don't know if this is correct, and maybe Yasmin can tell me if this is correct, that Austin is in the top 5% of money-generating districts, and they take millions of dollars away from us and send it to places that we don't even, I don't know where, because I'm not involved as much as you are. I've said this probably a million times to people. It drives me crazy that Justin Bieber can get on stage for 2 hours, shake his rump, sing, and make millions of dollars. And our teachers that take care of 20 plus kids. I don't know how teachers do it. I can't handle my 3 at home. I don't know how teachers do 20 plus kids. How do we fix our system? How do we fix our system?
Can we answer that in 5 minutes?
Well, and what we're facing right now, just a quick little overview of what Becca was talking about, is our system of recapture, or otherwise what we refer to as Robin Hood, otherwise known as Chapter 41. So Austin ISD is a Chapter 41 district, which means that we're considered property wealthy. The rub of that is that over 60% of our students in the ISD are economically disadvantaged. So we have property wealth, but we also have very high need within our district as well. We are very much a large urban district now. The way that recapture is essentially supposed to work is that it's supposed to take money from property wealthy districts, put it back into the general fund for redistribution out to other districts that aren't generating as much income out of their tax base to be able to operate their schools. In practice, what's happening though is that we are contributing money back to the state out of our tax base, but that money goes into the general fund, but our legislators have cut education funding across the board over the years. In fact, what they contribute per student right now is about $400 less per student than they were contributing 10 years ago in their budgets. So the money is going into the big pot, but it's not necessarily getting redistributed out to the students that need it. AISD is the single largest contributor to recapture in the state. We will contribute $406 million this year, which is about a third of our operating budget. So a third of your tax dollars, when you see that number on your tax bill, go back to the state's general fund, which when we are in a place where our teachers are some of the lowest paid in the region, some of the lowest paid for large urban districts in the state, that's a travesty. And when we start talking about how do we make that better, 87% of our district's operating budget goes to salaries. So when we start talking about where can we trim and where can we cut, we've trimmed to the bone in that additional 13% because that 13% includes keeping the lights on in our buildings. It includes all of the basic things that we need to make our schools operational every day. There's really not a left to trim. And so we're fortunate this year that our bump in taxes and our property values, even though we were able to lower our tax rate in the district, we still had enough of a little bit of lift that we could give a 4% raise to our teachers. But it's still not enough to get them to a competitive wage when our affordability is becoming such a challenge within our city as well. So it's compounding the effect of that lower pay combined with that higher level of lack of affordability is a huge challenge. So that's a little outline of the challenges. What do we do about it? Well, the folks that hold the keys to that are legislators. And so that's about becoming an educated voter, understanding what the people that you vote for stand for in terms of education, where they place value in education. Are they looking simply for solutions that are going to privatize education rather than making sure that we're adequately funding the system that our kids are depending on every day? So those are really critical things to be thinking about when you go to the ballot box and you think about who you're voting for. Also making sure that you're joining some of the advocacy efforts that Whitney mentioned is hugely important because I'm a firm believer that our legislators are going to continue to take the easy road of relying on those local tax dollars to fund education unless there's a strong enough outcry from voters to tell them to
But
do otherwise.
education is our base. Our legislators are where they are because they got educated. How do they not get that?
Exactly. I mean, education is about so much more than your child and my child in a classroom today. It's about the future economic state of Texas. It's about where we are going as a nation in terms of having an educated workforce. So there is so much more dependent on that it's, if I talk about it for too long, I'll have steam flying out of my ears and be screaming on the stage because it's so maddening to see that we have legislators that can talk so cavalierly about other things and where money should be going and not looking at what I feel is one of the most critical things that we have as a state right now. So really important things to think about as a voter. We at the district level are still continuing to try and advocate. We're partnering with other districts to strengthen our voice. We had a setback in a lawsuit earlier this year where we finally had a ruling that was not where we wanted it to be, but we're continuing to push and continuing to drive, but it's going to take all of us fighting for it together because we've got to be strengthened and unified as one loud voice to get any change to happen.
And I just want to add on to that, AISD does have a legislative issues page. So if you go to the AISD website and click on legislative issues, it'll show you exactly what is on the floor of the like legislation that's being proposed, who's proposing it, what you can do. So I feel like the district is really moving to educate and empower the parents and community of Austin to understand what's going on and what they can do.
And to the end, ACPTA, I'm not sure if you've got their resource on your stuff as well, but the Austin Council PTA, which is the PTA body that is basically the next level up of the campus PTAs, they also have legislative advocacy. I think if you go to their website, you can find they almost had set like a blog where you can learn about different issues and have different resources about how to get involved. So that's a great resource too.
Just a couple more minutes on this.
And this kind of takes us into question 3, what you can do, and we've been talking about that a little bit. And I'm just going to add on to what's already been said. I know that there are, I'm just going to go ahead and say, I would start writing letters. I mean, there was a time back, if y'all remember, when we went through a huge district deficit with funds. And I can't remember exactly who was in office at that time, but we sent out a sample letter through our school and said, start writing letters. Times have changed, and I'm not sure exactly if we can do that anymore as far as sending out templates. But if we can come together and get some people that are interested, like Becca, that would help us get some templates, find out exactly who would be the best contacts for us. I think that alone, and I'm not talking about writing letters to the school board, they got it. Okay, they're on it. I promise you, they're on it. And we are so fortunate to have, our school board works for nothing. They don't get anything for staying up till 1 o'clock in the morning. So they've got it. Dr. Cruz, they've got it. We've got to send our letters up. And we've got to get our community rallied, like I said, to reset this respect for education, that it is critical. And it's more critical than ever because more and more and more and more is asked of our teachers. And I'm going to tell you, because she won't, that our teachers usually, 95% of our teachers hold 2 jobs. Is that what you want for your children? Because it's happening. So get involved.
So let's keep with this, and if I could ask the panelists maybe to identify 1 or 2 ways in which you think parents, family members, the greater community can get involved in supporting Kiker and the district.
So I would just encourage the parents here and online and at Kiker to choose just one thing. I get overwhelmed really easily, and believe it or not, this is a risk for me, just being in a leadership position and on stage, but I feel like this is a safe environment to take those risks. And it may take you out of your comfort zone, but it's worth it, and it's exciting. So start small, whether it's just signing up to volunteer in a classroom for a party. And then the other thing is to choose one thing for the district. I feel like the district has a lot of great resources and amazing people and opportunities for us to get educated. So whether it's a community engagement meeting, whether it's going to look at the website, I think the more we know, the more we can be advocates and ambassadors for our students and our kids as well as our district. So those would be my encouragement.
Echo that, just pay attention to communication and find avenues. We have to do the work, and I think the people in this room, you're here today, so you knew about this event and you were paying attention to what's going out there, but share the love, spread that around so other people can find out about things like this too.
I agree with all the things you just said, and I think sometimes as parents you don't necessarily know what might be going on in the school or the classroom, and you just hear what comes home from your child. So if you have that time to volunteer to help out your child's teacher or help out the school by offering your assistance in the office, because then you get a firsthand look of what is going on at the school, what is the philosophy that I keep hearing about, this kindness, dignity, and respect, and getting to see it firsthand and really praising all of those positive things that you see and spreading the word in the community that it can look like this, and it does look like this at Kiker Elementary, and it can be done anywhere that it might not already be done.
So much good stuff there. I don't have a whole lot to add, but definitely agree with the parental involvement piece and being involved at the school, even at a very small level. It helps you get so much better of an understanding of what's really happening at the campus level and appreciate what's going on. I think, again, kind of back to the being an educated consumer, understanding, you know, there's a lot of great resources you can go to understand before. I see so many people that rely on perceptions or assumptions or things that you've heard through the rumor mill over time, and a lot of times that can really trip us up as a community because we get so focused on this thing over here that we think is the big problem that we're missing the thing over here that we can really be doing something about. So just making sure that you're staying up to speed and you're staying educated on what is going on, tapping those resources that are available. My door is always open. I'm always happy to receive a phone call or an email or grab me in the pickup line if I'm there. So, but stay up to speed on what is going on and make sure that you are an educated voter and you are an educated parent in terms of what's happening for your kids' schools.
I promise it'll be short. All I'm gonna say, besides becoming aware of and a part of, and like Rebecca said, an ambassador for education, is also looking at our mental health areas. Because we've got students, we've got trauma babies coming into our schools. And there are not a lot of resources out there. So again, education being our first priority. But a second is looking at what's happening in the mental health system, and also the CPS system, and systems like that in the past have really worked hard to, sort of go hand in hand with education. But I'm just seeing a lot of that crumble. And if we're not careful, and if we're not taking an active role, and by active, I mean doing more than coming to the school, and I know that's asking a lot, but sending those letters, find your passion and write letters about it, and contact people above us that can do something in one or more of these areas is critical. Because I'm gonna tell you what I know some other people won't. Education will dwindle. Students in special education, we're looking at a pendulum swing from inclusion back to pullout. If we don't stand up and start, not just me and Yasmin and the people up here, but the people in the houses out here, writing letters, doing whatever it takes. And again, don't go to the school board. They've got it. They know. Don't waste your time there. If you don't want to see your kids pulled out of classrooms and taught like it used to be, stand up and make your voice heard, because I'm going to tell you that we can only do so much with the money we have, and it's dwindling. And it's bleak. And it's not pretty. And this is a hard thing to say, but I'm going to tell you, having been in education 26 years and watched it and been a front runner in doing things differently, if we don't have the money to do it, you're going to only see it get worse. So step up and take a risk. Thanks.
Questions from the audience? I have time for a few questions if anyone has one.
I'm just wondering what the best resources are to pull some of that information to start writing those letters to make sure that we're using accurate statistics and accurate figures.
We've got some someone that would be able to answer a question right in the back row.
Hi, Ellen Williams, I'm a Kiker
Speak
parent.
just a little bit louder.
I'm a professional advocate and I work with the legislature on education issues, and I'm happy to help.
Is there anything you would share with them about particular people to write, about particular things to say? And I'll look to you to share some resources for me, but just for this crowd to walk away with today.
I'm gonna start with the state leadership. Governor, Lieutenant Governor, Speaker of the House, your particular House member, which is probably gonna be Paul Whitman if you're in this area, and your state senator, who is Donna Campbell. She's on the education committee. The appropriations committees and the finance committees as well. You've got some advocates there. Within Austin ISD, Donna Howard, she's on it. She's on the appropriations committee. In the Senate, Watson is on it, and he knows this issue as well on recapture. The recapture is just being taken, put into the state budget. It's like a water bed. If you push down on the, you've got more recapture that goes into the system. It just means it's an offset in the state budget, and that money is going elsewhere. Health and Human Services has gone up $13 billion over the last 8 years. Education on a per child basis has gone down, as Yasmin mentioned, and they're simply taking our local tax value growth, plugging it into the state budget, and offsetting that, and cutting the general revenue that goes from the state and the state aid as a result. So there's a good article in the Texas Tribune that came out yesterday morning, and I would suggest starting there and contacting your legislators.
I just wanted to say for anybody who might be watching on Facebook Live or who might be watching this later, that was Ellen Williams speaking, and we're going to try to get some of these resources that she spoke about and that you've heard of today up on our Kiker PTA Facebook page.
Other questions?
So we can all agree that Kiker is overcrowded and therefore it's taking away like valuable play space for the kids. And we all agree with that. And we're all here because we love Kiker and probably we all moved to the area because of the school. But do we have any immediate solutions for the kids' playground space to get more of it? Or, because that's like my kids' biggest, we have no more playground space. So, and we all agree that the kids need to be out playing to help them think better in the classroom.
So I just want to share that over the last couple of years, the district has come to our CAC, our Campus Advisory Council, and they have asked the Campus Advisory Council to get together and talk about, do we want to, for example, send our kindergarten to another school? Do we want to send our fifth graders to another school? What are some solutions we can, as a school, come up with so that we're not as overcrowded? And after 2 years of discussions and problem solving, while yes, I understand that we have not enough play area for our students, the consensus was that nobody really wanted to cut off an arm. Nobody really wanted to cut off a leg. And so a letter was sent that said, you know what, if it's gonna be up to us, we're not gonna turn neighbor against neighbor. We're gonna live with it. We love Kiker. And that was a real, it was just a nice, I'm slipping my words, but imagine that. But it was just a great validation of the work that's done here, and validation of the community as a whole, that we're gonna do whatever it takes. It may not look pretty. The kids may not have as much space, but we'd rather go to Kiker than send our neighbor elsewhere or run the risk of going elsewhere. So I do want you to know that, number one, that was looked at over the last 2 years, and number two, becoming part of the Campus Advisory Council or going to the Kiker website or the PTA website or the AISD website, reading the board briefs. They put out the board briefs, which are just, this is what the board talked about. Can get you valuable information that can help you make decisions about where to write your letters and how to proceed. But I just wanted to kind of give you where we were with that and kind of how we ended with that.
So I think that Dr. Schneider definitely is exhibiting what I see strong principals do, and that is making the absolute best of a challenging situation. Strong principals are survivors, and they figure out a way to work. But I am really committed to finding a long-term solution, because what we have right now, not only for Kiker, but also for all the proximate schools around Kiker, is not sustainable. With Kiker at 152%, I think Clayton's at 106 or 7%, Baldwin's at 120%, and Mills is just over 100%. So we're maxed out in the Southwest, and I think we're to a point where we are getting to a point where we're going to need to look at another school for our community. I don't think we can continue to move forward, and I don't think we're seeing any decline in the number of kids in our neighborhoods. We're kind of defying a lot of the traditional suburban models in terms of what you would see in terms of growth patterns, just because of the growth patterns of our city in general. So I think we have a substantiated need for more space than we can provide at our existing campuses. And because we do have the challenges in Southwest Austin with being in an environmentally sensitive area, impervious cover makes it really challenging to expand our campuses physically any more than they are. So what we currently have been working towards right now is we voted in June on a provisional contract with Cal Atlantic Homes on attractive land in the Avania development. So it's still not a done deal. It's been a long road to get through impervious cover transfer approvals with the city, a lot of contractual conditions. So we're at the very final stages of those contract negotiations, but that's something that's been a really big focus of mine for the last year, because I feel like having that land would give us the flexibility to have the space that we need to potentially expand for another elementary. What that means though is if we are able to make that deal happen by the end of the year, we have the land. But then what we'll need to do is to go out for a bond, and what we're looking at right now is looking like a strong likelihood of a November 2017 bond. And I really very, very heartedly want that school to be part of that bond. So that's where, if you guys are feeling like that is the direction that we want to go as a community, and that's what we need as a community, it's going to be critically important for you guys to be out there and to be vocal and to be some strong supporters and advocates of that bond happening, so that we can make that happen for our community. So I will be coming back to you at that time and talking to you about what that means for us, and what that means for Kiker, and what that means for our region as a whole. In addition to that, that facilities master planning effort that I was talking about, what I think is particularly beneficial about the way that's happening is that we're looking at our facilities as an entire district. So we're looking about right sizing and balancing what we're doing as a district. We're also looking at planning clusters. So we're looking at the schools that fit together geographically, culturally, in sort of a region, and how they play together. So all of that planning is really looking at how do we flex and move and make things work. So I think we'll be seeing more movement and more ability to impact how Kiker's working. And when I say how Kiker's working, I don't think it's just, we're not just talking about just a new school, we're not just talking about just this or just that. I mean, we're talking about modernization strategies for how our campuses are working. We're talking about the integrity of our buildings and making sure that, we don't have leaking roofs. We're talking about all of those types of things, and so all of that's going to start to come into play. So all that to say, it's not a solution right here today. I don't think the portable buildings are going to leave the playground next week, but hopefully in a year or two, we'll be having some very real conversations about where we're going to make some real meaningful long-term relief for our community and our campus.
Well, I think we are at that time. Certainly a few takeaways this morning, I think, are to continue, but for our audience that is in person today as well as those online, is to remain active, to continue to ask your questions, and to continue to seek and push for and expect answers. Someone once said that decisions are made by those that show up. I think that we're all fortunate to have such passionate leaders that have joined us on stage today, as well as for all of you in the audience, again, both in person and online, expecting excellence in our education system and seeing excellence in Kiker. We're very fortunate to have this community. Thank you all for joining us today, and thank you all for your passionate leadership. Any wrap-up points that we need to make?
I just want to say, I think I'm off, but I just want to say thank you. I want to say, first of all, thank you for Katie, who represents our teachers, for all that you do, for showing up every day with a smile on your face, leaving things that are happening at home, and coming here every day to do the very best that you can for kids. And so on behalf of all of us and all of us, thank you. And I also want to say to the rest of you that leadership is lightened when it's carried by all 4 or all 20 or all 50 of us. And so thank you, Whitney, for your leadership on the PTA, and for everybody that serves on the PTA and that's part of the PTA and that knows that we're all in this together, and all the things that you've done. And thank you, Rebecca, for your leadership in before in PTA and now in the Campus Advisory Council, leading us and making sure we're on charge and we're on agenda and all of that, and everybody else that serves on CAC. And then, of course, we all want to thank you, Yasmin, for stepping up and for, first of all, taking that step to run for school board. And we are lucky to have you in our school, but I'll just say, apart from that, you model such excellence. And it really feels great from a principal and from a community to know that we have someone at the tippy top that's working on behalf of our little 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds and 11-year-olds. So thank you very much. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. I think that concludes our session this morning. Thank you all for participating, and have a wonderful day.